Welcome to XConnect, the show. My name is Kareem Kanji. If you're joining us for the first time, XConnect is designed to explore how the relationship between a specific industry has been and is being affected by technology and social media. And of course, XConnect is a project of Third Ocean. Check us out at thirdocean.com, and we would love if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/XConnectTV. I want to thank Big Time Design and Communication for all their design and web work, and of course, Shadaling Chung every week on the other side of this camera. If you want to be a supporter of XConnect, please send us an email, xconnect@thirdocean.com. Very excited. What we're going through right now is EduConnect, EDU Connect. We're studying the education sector, and what we're going to be doing is profiling and interviewing various industry leaders, insiders, and professionals within the education and technology space. If you want to attend our event at the end of this month, educonnect.eventbrite.com. I was going to say a very old friend, but you're not old, you're young.
Pretty clean shaven.
Yes, but here's my friend Nehal Kazim from Professor Pass.
How are you, sir?
I'm well, how are you?
Very good.
Good, my dad is sir, by the way. You just call me Kareem.
Man?
Man, yo, bro. But let's start off with this. You and I actually go back to the first ever XConnect, and that was SportsConnect, May of 2010. How was that experience for you? I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
No, you didn't.
No, so 2 years,
really get along
2 years later now.
2 years later.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, even what's going on within Toronto from the entrepreneurship side on what people are doing from developing startups and building startups, whether in technology or in other spaces. But even within technology in general, people are fascinated by technology.
Mm-hmm.
We wake up and the first thing we do is look at our phones.
Yeah.
And to break it down within sectors like XConnect has within sports, and banking and education and so on and so forth, it's really interesting to see what the leaders in the space are doing. Like we had the Raptors and CFL and Blue Jays, yeah. And we packed it with 100 people. And that was very interesting to see because now you have three pretty diverse guys and mindsets on social media and how they're really taking it. So always interesting to see a spectrum.
And now we're come full circle, and now you're not just helping to organize, you're now a guest on the show. So first of all, I want to say congratulations on starting this company, Professor Pass, and we'll get into that. But you're also doing a lot of work in the entrepreneurial side of things. I think you're with SIFE Canada, or SIFE Ryerson, I guess.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with them and what SIFE is all about?
Sure. So right now I'm a fourth year Ryerson University student, so I just finished my fourth year, still have a semester left.
Okay.
But I majored in entrepreneurship with a minor in finance.
Okay.
And one of the most active things I was doing at Ryerson was students in free enterprise, SIFE Ryerson. And I had many leadership positions there, but my latest one was Vice President of Business Development. And that pretty much means that I get partnerships for monetary support as well as in-kind sponsorship as well. So there's many things SIFE does, but pretty much we have three pillars, which is entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and environmental sustainability. So my role was to get cash for them and increase the quality and distribute it within Toronto as well as Canada-wide.
Interesting. So what sort of activities does SIFE do? Like, what sort of, how do you spread the message of these three pillars?
So one of our biggest programs is called Start Me Up Ryerson, and we help entrepreneurs start and expand their business. So what that means is we have a 4-step process that we take each entrepreneur through, whether it's first we're just sitting down with them, take them through a Dragon's Den simulation in terms of them pitching the idea to industry professionals. Then we figure out what they need, where they want to go, and what are the resources they need to actually get there. Whether it's funding, whether it's a team, whether it's how do I create a website, whatever it is, we help them through that process. And lastly is funding. So we have the Ryerson Angel Network that helps support entrepreneurs with seed funding. We have the Slate Communications $25,000 business plan that we give $25,000 away to a Ryerson student each year. And that's always interesting to see the innovation that's going on within Ryerson and the progress that's even happened within the last 4 or 5 years.
Interesting. So we get to Professor Pass, and I'm curious, is what you've learned being involved at SIFE, did that kind of push you into the direction, okay, I want to start up a company?
So I joined STEP in my second year, and now I just finished my fourth year.
Yeah.
Back then, I thought I was a noob, and when I did a lot of this stuff, you're starting, you don't really know which direction to go, you're just pushing forward, and that's the most important thing. You also want to keep taking a step forward, you don't want to just stop, overthink, overanalyze, you want to keep moving forward and keep learning. Now, with everything I've learned, I'm moving into this side of it, where before it was more non-profit, and now this is for-profit, and building a company. I've never built a technology company before, for example, and now I'm starting again from scratch and starting from zero. So now, one thing I've learned by far is surround myself with smart people. And people who've already made the mistakes, and people who've already been through the process where I want to be. So they're already there, I'm simply following in their footsteps.
Interesting. So let's talk about Professor Pass. By the way, I read that you've been accepted into the Ryerson Digital Media Zone.
Yes.
So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
So doing a little bit of research, which apparently now you're telling me before we went to record.
I love you that much.
Yeah, the research that I did was like totally absolutely wrong.
Yep.
So what the internet says is that Professor Pass is an online live tutoring service that combines the latest technology with course-specific tutoring. And it says a lot more than that, but that's kind of like the first line. So before we actually go into what it does now, let me ask you this. What was the concept and the idea and the thinking behind Professor Pass and why you wanted to start it?
Sure, and this really illustrates the nature of a startup and spotting opportunities. So what we were doing initially was live online video tutoring, teaching specifically for university students. And that was the initial idea. We're university students, our friends are our customers, it's beautiful, everything is going to work perfectly. The challenge is consistency and the quality of education. Math, and so for example, economics at Ryerson is much different than economics at UFT versus Western versus UBC in British Columbia.
Now when you say it's different?
In terms of difficulty.
Okay.
And in terms of even course content. So for example, how it's taught, in terms of how it's delivered, as well as the level of difficulty can range, and finding the quality and enough students to actually tutor, we felt was not appropriate, especially for the time that's required to find the tutors, interview them, hire them, and maintain them. And that's not a very scalable or profitable model.
I'm interested. Did you take a look at all these various courses at all these universities?
Yeah, so we interviewed 230 students, and we asked them how much we should pay for it, why, have you done tutoring before, if yes, why, if no, why not, and really try to understand why they are involved in tutoring or haven't been involved. So that was really eye-opening because we got an idea of what people are willing to pay for. To an extent, there's always distribution curves and displacement through surveys. But at the end of the day, we found out how much we could charge compared to how much we could make, and the difference between what we pay the tutor and so on. It wouldn't make sense, and it wouldn't be very scalable. A better model is one of my friends, his name is Donnie, and he's building Reiku.com. And he's building a platform where anyone can join, and he's simply doing the platform where our model is a little bit different. So I really like what he's done with it and where he's going with it.
Okay. I'm just curious whether or not you were able to spin off something else like a rating platform for various courses at various universities. Because you're telling me, economics difficulty at one university is going to differ from another university.
Yeah. So at the core, what we want to do, and still what we want to do, there's a problem which is help students perform and excel academically.
That's the problem you wanted to solve.
That's the problem we want to solve.
So you wanted to keep that focus.
Yeah, there's a lot of different problems in education, and the education industry, especially from a technology perspective, in the last 5 years, has dramatically been influenced by kids like me who are looking at it and like, I want to fix that. So I want to get to the core problem, which is not who is the best professor or where do I find notes per se. That's not my focus. My focus is core at what is the problem, which is how do I perform exceptionally in class. And if it's notes, if it's online tutoring, if it's a learning platform, whatever it is, we want to make sure that we want to solve that. But the last thing we want to focus on is a solution. We want to focus on the problem.
Interesting. And so, before we pressed record on the camera, you said, "Oh, Kareem, that's not what we do anymore." And I said, "So what are you doing?" You told me, Professor Pass is an online live tutoring service. You told me, that was the old one. The new one is Professor Pass is a mathematics learning platform for high school students in North America.
Yeah, so it's a learning platform for high school students, teaching them math online.
Okay.
And before I go into that, I just want to highlight I've been working on this idea since last January, and you know, we didn't find a developer until May of last year, and we built up a platform, scrapped it after 4 or 5 months, and started again. But what I want to show, like highlight from that part of the business and kind of what I've learned is I wasted a lot of time. And right now the way I look at it is I don't think it's wasted per se. It's education. And right now, you know, I have 0 risks in life. You know, I don't have a wife, I don't have a kid, I don't have a house, I don't have a car. My biggest expense is my cell phone bill. Like right now, I can afford this form of education. And so if this was me at 40, the opportunity cost is noticeably higher. But right now, my cost of education is much minimal. So my point from all of this is, when I first built Professor Pass with the live online video tutoring part of it, which is now scrapped, but once we were building that, we were constantly testing our assumptions, and we never drank the Kool-Aid. And we never assumed that everything is perfect, everything is going to keep going, just keep going. We kept our eyes open, and we made the necessary adjustments as we needed to. And the most important part of all of that is that our team cared. And once you're building and working on something for 6 months, and you have to throw it away, it's a crappy time. So, you know, you start again, everyone does it. But the first time you do it, it hurts a lot.
So why did you identify mathematics high school North America? How did that come about?
So initially what we're doing is a learning platform for high school students, teaching them math online. So very similar to Khan Academy, and we can get into that in a sec, but there are 3 main components to it. So first is lessons. So we're starting with calculus for high school students, for example. So what are the lessons they're actually taught? So for example, if you're learning derivatives, it's derivatives of a polynomial function. That's where we're starting in terms of lessons. And this is a video, not live, it's recorded. They're provided that video, they watch the video, and then what they can do is go to the second step, which is practice. So now that they've watched derivatives of a polynomial function, now they can practice what they've learned in a progressively, increasingly difficult process. So what that means is, as they start with basic questions, the more they answer and the more they understand, the questions get more and more difficult.
Interesting.
So you start with the lessons, you do the practice, and then the most important part out of the 3 is the analytics. So you're doing the practice, so you're watching the lessons, you're doing the practice, but now it's, here's what you've accomplished, here's what you're performing well on, and here's what you're struggling with. And that's really important because there's no point to keep doing what you're already good at if you already understand it. Especially when there's a test coming up. You want to focus on what you're weak on so you can make that better and perform well on the test.
Interesting.
So it gives you analytics on your performance.
Why math? Why not English? Why not anything else? Why did you focus on math?
So a lot of students we spoke to, and this is really important where you want to speak to your market. So we spoke to a lot of students, and especially on one of the sites that I look at, everyone posts their marks. So they would post science marks and English marks and economics and law and math, and almost all the time, the lowest mark would be math. And so if you were to take out the math mark, their average would be anywhere from 80 to 90. And you put in the math mark where the average is like anywhere from 60 to 70, which really brings everything down. That's what they want to focus on. I'm not saying that students don't struggle with the other courses. This is the desperate buyer, and we're going after where the market's hot.
So before you were talking to university students. So is it the university students that you saw bad math marks? So you said let's go earlier into the high school, or?
So right now our focus is to test the market. We're in the development stages of Professor Pass. And you know, the platform isn't live right now. So what we're doing right now is focusing just on, do people even want this? Do people like this? And does this make sense? So what we're doing is we're choosing a sliver of the market to make sure that you know, it makes sense. So we're focusing on people who need it the most. So those are people in grade 12 looking to go to university and college, and they need it the most because they need to keep their marks up to maintain their scholarships, to maintain their grades.
And we had a brief chat, you know, when you told me North America, I go, why North America? Why not Canada? Why not the world? Is it just a focus on North America today and maybe tomorrow it might be bigger or smaller? Like, why did you decide North America?
Right now, as a startup, you have to focus on first the macro in terms of what the bigger vision is, and then you got to work at the first step. And step number one right now is to figure out Toronto in our backyard. Okay. So we have connections in the U.S. and a lot of interest from the U.S., but we want to make our mistakes and break things here and get feedback. And then once we're there, we can say we have 100 people, 1,000 people, whatever the number is. Here's the results, here's what they're doing well, here's the different changes that we feel we need to make it even stronger, and here's why you should adopt it.
Interesting. So not too long ago, we were speaking with Gabriel Chan from NoteWagon. I'm sure you're familiar with them. What do you think about that company and what they're offering, and do you feel that there's any, whether it's synergies or competition between Professor Pass and NoteWagon?
I love NoteWagon. I think NoteWagon is really cool because
and you're a student, by the way. Have you ever used it?
I have. I've used it once. And the only reason I've used it once is because I haven't really looked into it as deep, first of all, as I really want to. And I take my own notes. That's just my preference.
Okay.
Other people, they can take other people's notes and they're on the go. For me, I like taking my own notes, my own writing, and I can see it. It's different.
I'm just taking a look at a funding opportunity for you. So sell your notes to help the Professor Pass.
In terms of
what do you think? What do you think about the model? What do you think about their business?
In terms of what I think from a business perspective, unbelievably scalable, and makes a lot of sense for what the student has as an asset and how that student can make it into revenue and cash, beer money, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it helps a student who's actually buying the notes off, especially during midterms and exam times, because some professors don't like posting anything. But what I like the most about it is it's scalable, makes sense for NoteWagon, makes sense for the actual student. But I think they have a much bigger vision than just notes. And I think they're doing much bigger things than just notes. In terms of synergies, there's a lot we can do with them or companies like them. There are a few. But right now, that's not our focus. Right now, we want to make sure that the people can care about what we're building. Yeah. And then if we can add other pieces to that and make that even stronger, beautiful.
So I'm curious about, you mentioned a few times, number one, people care what you're building, will people buy what you're selling, and things like that. And, earlier, the day that we're taping, earlier today, there's this dude that everyone's in love with called Eric Ries that's in town. He's got this whole philosophy that a lot of people, follow, called the Lean Startup philosophy. I'm curious about, how an entrepreneur builds a product. Do they build a product they really want to build, or are they, building something for the market, and maybe the market that they're talking to, they just didn't hit the right market that would have validated what they do. I'd love your thoughts on all of this. The whole concept of validating what you're doing.
So I'm the CEO of the company, right? And everything I do, I'm very passionate about. That's the reason I do it. I don't stay up till 3, 4, shits and giggles. I do it because I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and I want to get what the vision I have in my head into reality, in physical. Sure. So the key things that I've learned, and at the core is you can't get attached to the product. And you're solving a problem, but we get so attached to the solution where the end result is that's perfect. Don't touch it. Don't break it. This is perfect. We got to make a little bit of tweaks, and everyone's going to love it. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And we found out 6 months the hard way. So we built. The mistake we made was we didn't give it to the market early enough. And even with what we're building now, I wish we did that even faster. What we built is in nearly less than half the time of what we built the first version. And that's also because the 2 developers on our team know each other better now, and there's other components of that are simply working together because we've been a team. But you can't get attached to it, because as soon as you're attached, it's not about the customer, it's not about the market, it's not about the industry, it's about you and making sure the colors are right because that's your favorite color. Like that's the last thing that should be on the entrepreneur's mind and what the entrepreneur should be focusing on. What is the problem of the student in my case or the client in a general case, and how is your company going to solve that? And whether it's a learning platform, a live online video tutoring platform, a NoteWagon competitor, whatever it is, it is the solution, the problem you have to obsess about, not the solution. And once the solution is really figured out, you have to balance the two. But right now, it's all about validation. evaluation. Like, we don't know if people are going to love it or hate it. So
you still don't know whether or not this version.
No way.
So what are you doing? So let me ask you this: what are you doing today to validate that high school students will pay for online math lessons?
So first of all, I already know many people do. That's the most important thing.
Sure.
So I'm not creating something that's brand new, revolutionary, something no
so
one
many
has
people
ever
are already
100%.
Okay.
So there's different forms of education online. You have the free spectrum from blogs and forums and websites, free math sites,
Sure.
to all the way to places like educator.com and Cramster and all these different resources that are paid as, or freemium. So I know people are paying for it. Now, is my solution good enough for them to pay for it? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And how do I monetize it in a way, even if they don't pay for it, there's other ways to monetize it that other people could pay for it. There's other ways I can sell information. There's a lot of different revenue models. All I know as a business, I gotta make money to survive.
Yeah.
But at the core of it, I gotta solve a problem, the money will come.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so because it also sounds like Professor Pass version 1,
Yeah.
Was also validated because there were other platforms out there
Right.
that people could learn, right? So it's still a battle of what comes first. Do you build it and see if people come, or do you continue to change, to see what gets built first?
And the bigger challenge is we don't have marketing dollars. Like, I'm on a negative budget. How do I get my word out?
Yeah.
So you have to do guerrilla marketing. You have to speak with students. You have to do stuff that
Come on the show and talk about it and let us distribute it.
Yeah, and like do stuff that takes time, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's other ways to get around the word about Third Ocean. This is one way you chose, So for me, it was going on blogs and forums and speaking to high school students directly, reaching out to my personal network and talking to my brother's friends, speaking to parents, speaking to people from the school boards, and trying to get as much feedback as I can on what turns them on and what turns them off.
Yeah. Listen, I'm so looking forward to seeing what happens.
Thank you.
Because I know that I know that when you want to do something, I've only known you for 2 years, but I know that whatever you want to do, you kind of put your head down and you make it work.
Appreciate it.
So listen, all the best to you, Nehal, all the best to what's happening at Professor Pass, and please keep in touch and let us know what is happening and what is going on with you and your projects, and I hope to see you on May at the end of the month here at XConnect.
I'll be there.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching. My name is Kareem, and we'll talk with you soon.